Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have here another 10 pens currently inked for this week. I think let's go through these briefly one by one. We'll go through them in a little bit more detail and then we'll do a writing sample. So from left to right we have the Sailor King of Pens Sakura Nagare. We have an Omas Arte Italiana Paragon Grande in the Arco brown or bronze. We have a Danitrio, and this is the Bamboo Story. We have a Pilot Urushi in the Vermilion. We have an Esterbrook Estie Sparkle in the Tanzanite. We have a Molteni Modello 55S in the Royal Blue Lucens. We have a Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove. A Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina in Shiny Circles. We have a Visconti, and this is the Blue Ripple. And we have a Leonardo Officina Italiana Momento Zero Grande in the Sand. So I think let's take a look at these in a little bit more detail. So this is the beautiful Sailor King of Pen, and this is the Sakura Nagare. Now this is a maquillé pen, it's a Raden pen. You have these beautiful Raden petals. And Sakura Nagare is basically the Sakura petals flowing down the river. There's a lot of gold as well, accenting that pen, but it's a really, really beautiful pen. So typically, Sailor King of Pens sell in the UK for around about £600–650 just for the sort of either the black resin or the ebonite versions. This typically sells for around about £1,200, so it is a lot more expensive, but I think you can see why, because this is a really beautiful, beautiful specimen. And although this isn't a limited edition, it's technically it's not a numbered edition, but it is a special edition. So you do have to order these specifically from Sailor. You might luck out, you might find a retailer that has one in stock, but typically they do not. And you do have to order these, especially from Sailor. It comes with a Sailor King of Pen nib, and it's a 21 karat gold nib there. It's a cartridge converter pen. Can I post the cap? I can. It's not something I want to do because the Raden here is actually quite pronounced. Even though there is a lacquer over the top, I can still feel all of these Raden shells, which typically I don't feel on most other pens because they add so much lacquer to them that it kind of fills in between the Raden shells or the Raden stripes. Whereas this, you do feel it more. So I wouldn't particularly prefer to post that cap. And that would just be my preference. But then again, I'm not normally a cap poster anyway. So I have that one inked up this week. Another one I have inked up, which I believe I had inked up last week as well, is the Omas, and this is the Arte Italiana Paragon Grande. And this is in the Arco Brown, or as some people call it, the Arco Bronze. I am always a little bit torn by this because a lot of people call it bronze, and I would say it's not really a bronze colour. It's more of a brown colour to me. But some people call it bronze, some people call it brown. I typically call it brown. But this is a beautiful celluloid, and you can see why maybe that is called a bronze because of the variations there in that beautiful finish. It's an Omas. Unfortunately, Omas have long closed their doors, and the Arte Italianas were the regular Paragons and the Milords were a celluloid section. The Arte Italianas are a silver section. This one is a silver section, but it's vermil, gold plated. You have the Omas nib there. It's a medium nib. And you've got the ebonite feed there. Now, this one I actually bought secondhand, and I didn't buy it with box or anything, but I got it for a very good price. Interestingly, when I picked this one up, the nib would click a lot, and I decided that I needed to get that nib checked out. I got John Soroka in the UK nibsmith, and he checked it out and he managed to correct the nib, and it no longer clicks. And it's actually one of my better writing nibs in my collection. So I'm so glad that I bought that. And I'm so glad that I also just got the nib adjusted slightly. It was just that the nib wasn't sitting properly on the feed, so it was putting a little bit more pressure against one tine when you went to write with it. The next pen I picked up, I have inked up, I should say, is this one. And this is another Urushi pen that I have in my collection. And this, I never knew existed at all. I went to the London Pen Show a number of years ago, and I'd gone around the pen show several times, and I was videoing pen show tables at the time. And then in the afternoon, I was getting a little bit tired on my feet, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to do one more round of going round. And a few of my friends were at John Twiss's table, and John Twiss, although he makes custom pens, he also has some Danitrios as part of the combination between himself and Vince. They create a company called Tweeko. And so he had this Danitrio there, and I saw the price tag, and I'm like, it's an expensive pen, but I very quickly Googled it, and I saw that the retail price was double. So at that point, I said to him, are you open to offers on it? He knocked down £50, and then at that point, I bought the pen. And this is an absolute stunning pen. So you have the artist signature there, and it is shaped as in a bamboo cane. And if I unscrew the cap, you've got this lovely Danitrio nib there. It's a fine nib. A lot of the Danitrios typically are fine nibs that you find out there. Although more lately I've been finding some with medium and broad nibs, but certainly most of the ones that I had originally seen on sellers' tables at pen shows were fine nibs, and likewise any I've seen online as well. Now this is an eyedropper pen, so the whole of the body actually is filled with ink. It's a pen that I don't normally take out of the house much. Eyedroppers, I typically have a little bit of a sort of shock and awe that I don't take them out because I don't want a huge capacity of ink just to leak out the pen. I do have other larger pens that are either piston or likewise power vac in my collection, and those I'm happy to take out. It's just the eyedroppers. I'm always just a little bit sensitive on maybe I might have a very large leak and have ink go everywhere. And I have actually had a friend actually have a whole load of ink leak into a rucksack. It was out of ink bottles. It wasn't out of a pen, but still, I have seen the catastrophe that ensues from a whole load of ink being leaked out. So I typically don't keep or don't take this pen much outside the house. I have done a few times. I've not had any leaks, but still I'm a little bit nervous in doing so. The next pen I have inked up this week is a Pilot, and this is, you'll see here on the cap band, it says Pilot, made in Japan. It's a custom Urushi. So again, another Urushi pen. This is a really nice pen. I had a friend, Anthony, at ukfountainpens.com when he was running that site. He'd bought this from Japan. He, like with most of his pens, he doesn't keep hold of his pens for long. He sells them and then buys new ones. And I'd actually made him an offer on this one, and he actually sold it to a friend, Gary, at our pen club. Gary then bought it, didn't like it, found it was way too large for him, and wanted to sell it. So this was at the start of COVID, the pandemic in 2020, and I offered him some money, and he took it. So this then entered my collection. So I'm really glad it did. This is a very large size nib. I'll show you again there. It's a number 30 size nib from Pilot. So that's the equivalent of normally a Western, I'd say a 9 or a 10. You typically, in most cases, only get a size 8, but this is larger than a size 8 nib. I do like how that writes. It's a fine medium nib, so a little bit between a fine and a medium. And that is the only pen I have in my collection that is actually stamped an FM nib. Or it could even be an MF, but this is actually stamped FM for fine medium, not medium fine. The next pen I have inked up this week is an Esterbrook Estie. This is an oversized version. It's called the Sparkle. Now, certainly up until this point, the Sparkle range or model has only been oversized. Now, they've done a Rocky Top version, which has the same kind of diamond dust or diamond cast material, but they've done it in a regular and an oversized version. So I do wonder if the Sparkle is going to become a regular size version. But this is the oversized version. I do like this blue a lot. It really glitters. If you like a glittery pen, then this certainly is a pen for you. If I unscrew this, you'll see it's got metal threads here. It's got an Esterbrook Yovo nib, and that's a medium steel nib. It's a cartridge converter. I can post the cap. It doesn't post deeply or that securely, but it will post. So if you really want to post a cap, then you can. It also has this spring-loaded clutch mechanism, which is supposed to try and keep the nib from drying out. And to be honest, so far, I've not had that nib drying out. So I think it probably works, but equally, I have a lot of pens without a spring-loaded clutch mechanism that don't dry out. So I don't know. Is it a gimmick? Is it something that actually does work? I don't really know. I can't really say. But I do have a lot of pens that do dry out after maybe a few days or a week if they're not written with. But I equally have some pens, and I'm thinking certainly Twisby's, where I can actually leave one of those inked up for about a year and it will still write out of the box. The only thing when I would say it wouldn't write would be if it was a glittery ink. The next pen I have inked up this week is this one. It's a Molteni. It's a Modello. It's a 55S, and this one is aptly called the Royal Blue Lucens. And it's actually a two materials. So you've got the Omas Royal Blue or Blue Royale material here in the cap and the section, and then the body here. Well, that's also and the piston knob. The body here is actually the Lucens or the Blue Lucens material. So it's a mix of two materials, but I like this a lot. It comes with a number 6 size Bock nib Molteni there. It's a medium nib with an ebonite feed. Can I post this cap? I can, and it posts very deeply. Molteni have two distinctive shapes. They have the cigar shape, and then they have almost like a flatter top version. I like the cigar shape a little bit more. Strangely enough, although like this is a flat top here, the Pilot Custom Urushi, I have always typically gone for cigar-shaped pens, and I think it's just something that just appeals to me more. I typically like the cigar shape, although you can see here I've got an Omas that isn't cigar-shaped. I've got a Danitrio and also a Pilot that isn't cigar-shaped. And I've got some Montegrappas and some Viscontis that aren't cigar-shaped. So I don't know, it's strange, but if there's an option for a cigar shape or a flat top, typically, in most cases, I will go for the cigar shape. I don't know why, it's just the way it is. The next pen I have inked up is this one, and this is a stacked celluloid. It's a Montegrappa. It's an extra 1930. It's a Shiny Lines Dove. This was a Goulet exclusive, so you can see Montegrappa there on the cap band, and then you have this dove symbol there. And if I unscrew the nib, you'll see a Montegrappa nib. It's a number 8 size 18 karat gold nib. It's a medium nib. It's got the dove emblem on there with an ebonite feed. But this is just a beautiful, beautiful stacked celluloid. Can I post the cap? I can. It doesn't post that securely. It also posts onto the piston knob. So I'm typically, I would say it's not really designed to post. You have to be careful with these piston knobs. Either putting the cap on too hard, because you're going to be pulling that away from the pen, or if you twist it, then you could activate the piston knob. It will post, it's not a pen that I would typically post. Now, the next pen is its larger sibling, and this is the Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina in shiny circles. Well, Bartolomeo Ferracina was a clock or watch maker, and this is the clock there that you have, and it is a functional clock. The little black window is a solar panel there. It is an interesting pen for sure. It's got a very, very interesting shape, which kind of looks as though it would not be that comfortable to write with, but it is super comfortable. It is a long pen as well, and you'll see there that it has the limited edition one there. So there's only 100 pens made. This is number 25, and it has a silver, solid silver section, number 8 size nib there, Montegrappa nib. Again, this is a medium nib, and with the ebonite feed, and it is a long pen, so I do like writing with this. It's quite heavy. You can post the cap. It posts more securely, and over the piston here, the piston knob, but it is very back weighted. So again, it's not a pen that personally I would post the cap on. I typically only post caps on pens that are really quite short, and where I feel that I need to post those caps. The next pen I have inked up is this beauty. It's a Visconti. It's a blue ripple, and I have to say I absolutely love this pen, and it's a pen that I wanted for, I want to say, 2 maybe 3 years, and it was a pen that it's new old stock, and it's a pen that I kept deliberating over whether or not I should buy it or not. I have a watermark, and I love the watermark, and this just speaks to me. So you can see there Visconti, and it's ripple, and it is the blue ripple, 999 made, and this is 875. It's a beautiful blue, metallic blue. This is silver overlay with a white crystal inlay there. It has an 18 karat gold nib. This is the older Visconti 18 karat gold nib. It's a medium nib. Writes beautifully well. You've got an ink window there as well. So I'm going to be inking that one back up so I can write with that this week. Beautiful pen. It's quite heavy as well, because it obviously does have a fair amount of silver there. But it's a pen that I like writing with, and it's quite a wet writing nib. The last pen I had inked up last week, and that is the Leonardo Officina Italiana Momento Zero Grande in the sand. Again, another beautiful pen. Really, really nice. I love this pen. It's got this striated sort of pattern where they've effectively taken slices of resin or sheets of resin, layered it. I think it's glued together. I'm not 100% sure. It might be diffusion bonded. Who knows? But it just creates this beautiful pattern. So this is a pen I've had for a number of years. It's got a number 6 size steel Bock nib on there. This was before Leonardo moved from Bock to Yovo nibs. So it's a medium nib with an ebonite feed. I just love this pen a lot. So I love how it writes. I typically ink it up with a purple ink. Typically, I normally do really match the ink color to the pen color. So I should really put like a green in here. It came with a purple ink, a Leonardo ink, and I love that ink so much that I have never changed it since. I have gone to a different purple ink, and this one is actually inked up with a diamine purple ink now, but I still stick with a purple ink. So I think with that, let's go and do a writing sample. So the first pen I have inked up is the Sailor King of Pen Sakura Nagare. So I think let's do an ink swatch. And this is a pen that I really do love. I love the writing experience, but I also love the rad and the maquillé work on this pen. So this is the Sailor King of Pen Sakura Nagare, and it is a broad, and it's a 21 karat gold nib because it's a sailor nib. And then the ink in here is a KWZ, and it's grapefruit. And again, typically I match ink colors to pen colors. I have a lot of colors on this pen, so typically I could actually ink it up with any color I want. But I went with KWZ grapefruit the first time I inked it up, and I love it. The next pen is the Omas, and this is the Arte Italiana Paragon Grande in the Arco brown. So we'll do an ink swatch. And this is now a perfect writing nib since I had that nib adjusted a few years ago. So this is the Omas Arte Italiana Paragon Grande, and it's in the Arco brown. It's a medium, and it's an 18 karat gold nib. And then the ink in here is Ackerman, and it's SBRE brown, which is a nice brown ink. Sometimes it looks a little bit golden. Sometimes it looks a little bit darker, depending on the nib and feed, depending on how dry or wet or how wide the nib is. The next pen I have inked up is the Danitrio Bamboo Story. So let's do an ink swatch. And this is an eyedropper pen. It's a fine nib, and I remember when buying this pen, I thought, oh, it's a fine nib. I really don't like fine nibs. But I saw how gorgeous this nib was, and I decided I just had to get it. And more lately, I have actually liked writing with this nib because I've been on a little bit more of a medium or a fine nib finding, really. So this is the Danitrio, and it's the Bamboo Story. And I'd have to say that when I got this nib, it was writing a little bit crisp, so I did actually tune the nib slightly, so it does write for me a lot better. It's a fine, and it's an 18 karat gold nib, and it's a Bock nib. And the ink in here is diamine, and it is poppy red. But it's a beautiful pen, a beautiful nib, and I just love that pen a lot. So I think in some cases I prefer that it may have not been an eyedropper, and maybe I would have taken it out of the house a lot more than I do. The next pen is the Pilot Custom Urushi in the Vermilion. So we'll do an ink swatch here. Now this is a fine medium nib. And I have to say, I do like this nib as well. It's got a little bit of flex to it. Not a huge amount, but a little bit. So this is the Pilot Custom Urushi. And it is a fine medium. And it is an 18 karat gold nib. It is a pilot nib. And fine medium, it really writes more like a fine. Now, the ink in here is Mont Blanc, Corn Poppy Red, which is now a discontinued ink. Now, I said a little bit flex. That's about as much flex as that you can get out of that nib. I wouldn't want to try and push it any further than that, but it's a fair amount of line variation you can get out of it. The next pen is the Esterbrook Estie Sparkle in the Tanzanite. So we've had a little bit of a red-brown sort of mix here of ink. So this is going to be a blue. And I like the Esterbrook Estie pens, the oversized versions. The non-oversized are a little bit shorter, a little bit thinner, but I prefer the oversized. So this is the Esterbrook Estie Sparkle, and it's the Tanzanite. And it is a medium, and it's a steel nib, and it's a Yovo nib. And then the ink in here is Pilot Iroshizuku, and it's Tsuyu Kusa, which is a nice blue ink. And again, that is another ink that's been discontinued. So we've got a discontinued Mont Blanc ink there, Corn Poppy Red, and now a discontinued Pilot Iroshizuku ink, which is Tsuyu Kusa. The next pen ink tub is the Molteni Modello 55S in the Royal Blue Lucens. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And this is an interesting nib. I do like it a lot. So this is the Molteni Modello or Model 55S. It's a Royal Blue Lucens, and it's a medium 18 karat gold nib. And then the ink in here is KWZ Gummy Berry. That is a lovely ink. And the ink, if you had any of the newer KWZ inks, they have a little bit of a vanilla smell to those inks. The next pen is the Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove. So we'll do an ink swatch. And I do love how this nib writes. Writes very, very well for me. So this is the Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove. And it is a medium, and it's an 18 karat gold nib. And then the ink in here is Diamine, and it's Earl Grey, which is my favourite grey ink. The next pen is the Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina in shiny circles. So we'll do an ink swatch. And again, this is a nice writing pen. So this is the Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina, and I'm not going to fit shiny circles in here, but it's a medium and it's an 18 cat gold nib. And then again, the ink in here is Diamine Earl Grey, which is a lovely grey ink. And then the next pen is the Visconti Blue Ripple. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And I really do love how this nib writes as well. And I've been saying that on quite a few of these nibs now, but this really, really does write well. I'm glad that I got this pen and nib. So this is the Visconti Blue Ripple. And it is a medium. And it's the older style 18 cat gold nib from Visconti. And then the ink in here is Diamine Blue. And it's Imperial or Imperial Blue. I was about to say Blue Ripple, strangely enough, which obviously is the name of the pen. And then the last pen inked up this week is the Leonardo Officina Italiana Momento Zero Grande in the sand. So we'll do an ink swatch. And this is a really, really lovely purple ink. So this is the Leonardo. And I will say Momento Zero Grande in the sand with a medium steel Bock nib. And then the ink in here is Diamine Majestic Purple, which is a beautiful purple ink. And my favourite purple ink too. So, I think let's take a look at these pens inked up one more time. We have a Sailor King of Pens Sakura Nagare in a broad 21 cat gold nib inked up with KWZ Grapefruit. We have an Omas Arte Italiana Paragon Grande in the Arco Brown in a medium 18 cat gold nib inked up with Akamon SBRE Brown. We have a Danitrio Bamboo Story in a fine 18 cat gold nib inked up with Diamine Poppy Red. We have a Pilot Custom Urushi in a fine medium 18 cat gold nib inked up with Mont Blanc Corn Poppy Red. We have an Esterbrook Estie Sparkle in the Tanzanite in a medium steel nib inked up with Pilot Washizuku Tsuyu Kusa. We have a Molteni Modello 55S that's in the Royal Blue Lucens with a medium 18 cat gold nib inked up with KWZ Gummy Berry. We have a Montegrappa Extra 1930 Shiny Lines Dove in a medium 18 cat gold nib inked up with Diamine Earl Grey. We have a Montegrappa Bartolomeo Ferracina in a medium 18 cat gold nib. This is a Shiny Circles inked up with Diamine Earl Grey. We have a Visconti Blue Ripple in a medium 18 cat gold nib inked up with Diamine Imperial Blue. And then we have a Leonardo Momento Zero Grande in the sand in a medium steel nib inked up with Diamine Majestic Purple. So there you have it. That's my currently ink pens for this week. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.